Are you worried about today's dire financial situation?
Put simply, I would argue the Biden economic plan is working.
The storms on Wall Street continued today after regulators seized the assets of Silicon Valley Bank, marking the largest bank failure since the 2008 financial crisis.
Do you worry you'll have enough to pay your mortgage, pay your children's college tuition, enough to retire?
I believe our banking system remains strong.
Regional banks in focus once again today as the market digests the fallout of the First Republic failure.
You have questions, we have answers. It's the Gold Standard with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Welcome into the Gold Standard Radio Show. I am Jennifer Horn. That right there is my fantastic co-host, Ken Russo. Hi, Ken.
Hello again, Jen. So happy to be here again with you.
I am happy to be with you. And if you are new to the Gold Standard, we are a weekly radio show. We discuss the top issues of the week, the story behind the story, what the government isn't telling you, and we discuss the importance of adding gold and precious metals to your investments as well to take into account some of the secrets that our government isn't telling us, Ken.
Well, absolutely, Jen. You know, and it kind of started in 1971 when President Nixon did the famous speech on the gold standard elimination of the U.S. dollar. And today, 52 years later, it's still temporary and we're still on it. Can you play that clip, Mike?
Directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
Tell us why that is important, Ken, because I think a lot of times on programs like this, everybody's always looking for the blame game, right? They're looking to blame Republicans, blame Democrats. Why is that so significant from Richard Nixon?
Well, it's significant, Jen, for a couple of reasons. Number one, we keep hearing on television that the United States has never defaulted before, you know, especially with the debt ceiling situation.
I've heard it about 1 trillion times just in the last, 48 hours.
I would argue that that's not actually true.
White flag on the play.
Yeah, and I would say in 1933, when President Roosevelt asked everybody to turn in their gold because they needed to print more money and they didn't have enough gold to support, the printing. That, in essence, was a default on the U.S. obligations.
Interesting.
In 1971, as well, the United States needed to print more money, to pay for what was going on, especially with Vietnam and everything else. They decided to completely eliminate the gold standard, and in essence, that was another default of their obligation. So it comes to our money. It's backed by nothing. It used to be backed by gold, which gave it a certain value. The problem now is not only is the safety of our money in jeopardy, but the value of our money, Jen, continues to get less and less and less. It's a fiat currency system. So what you and I are talking about today, as always, is how could the average person out there, in the middle class mostly, because we're under attack, how could they protect themselves from losing substantial buying power during this mess of whatever we're in, whoever's leading it, whatever's going to happen? Yeah. How could we protect, Jen, what we have when it comes to our money?
It's so important to understand because every dollar that we used to have in circulation was backed by gold. Now it's literally worth the paper that it's printed on. We're going to jump into a big show today. We're going to talk about lies our government tells us. I think we should write a book about that. But before we do, I know we had a great moment. We want to say hello to Mark Thune, who was a great listener to this program, who came into Midas Gold Group for the very first time, right?
Yeah, and he told me verbatim, I love Jennifer Horn.
Okay, that's why we mentioned it.
Yes, and I understand why, Mark. And I love Sebastian Gorka, and I love Grant Stinchfield. And it just makes me so proud, Jen, not only to help people like that, because diversification is real important. Nobody wants to lose all their money, no matter who they support. But great American, great patriot, it just makes me want to go USA, USA, USA.
I love it. Do a little USA chant, little Let's Go Brandon. Now, don't forget, you can go to Midas Gold Group as well. Check out MidasGoldGroup.com for more information. You can also call. We've got the 800 or the 855 number, same effect, 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653. There are offices in Arizona, offices in California. But the best thing you can do right now, if you want more information, MidasGoldGroup.com or 855-322-GOLD. gold. So a very special thank you to Mark for saying hello and listening to this program. We appreciate it. But really, lies, fibs, outrageous stories that the government spins to cover its own just really ridiculous spending, Ken, is kind of the topic of today's show. Now, you are so awesome because you went back in time. You went back into our archives and found some of the biggest whoppers that we have been told as of late. The first thing is that these leaders are constantly trying to tell us, right, that their spending is okay, but if their lips are moving, we know that the lies must be coming out. This clip is from Jen Psaki, who at the time...
I miss Jen Psaki.
Don't you? We call
I
it
do.
The Psaki bomb is what she would drop
I do.
on people.
I liked her hair, perfectly parted and straight, but I miss Jen Psaki.
You guys are both kind of redheads, so of course you have that in common. But Jen Psaki, I actually do miss as the White House press secretary, because this new one, Karine Jean-Pierre, leaves a lot to be desired. But the old Psaki bomb was speaking back in 2021, and she was talking about our country's budget back then.
Was she using one of the binders that, did she, or did she just say it verbatim?
I think on loan from Mitt Romney, one of those binders.
Let's hear what Jen had to say.
Following up on something that you said that the president's going to have a virtual meeting with House progressives to talk about how this Build Back Better package is now going to be smaller than $3.5 trillion. But you have been saying that it costs zero. So are you now admitting that the plan does not cost zero? Or is it less than zero?
Well, let's not dumb this down for the American public here. What we're talking about is how much the top line investments are, which are all paid for. So therefore, it costs zero. No matter what the cost or size of the top line investments are, we have ways to pay for it. So the point is, that's important to the American public, all of your viewers too, is that this is not going to cost the American public $1. We're going to pay for this by asking corporations, the highest income, so people under $400,000, I should say, corporations' highest income, to cover the cost of these necessary investments.
So just to not tone it down then, does the plan cost nothing or is the plan free?
The plan costs nothing for the American people who make less than $400,000. If you think that companies that paid zero in taxes last year, 50 of the top companies should continue to pay zero in taxes, we're happy to have that debate.
Oh, nothing, free.
Yeah.
The lies, just...
It's going to be free. This is, it's always kind of a go-to move when you hear this. First of all, the blatant, outrageous lie that it is free, which clearly there is nothing.
How could it be free?
It is. There's no.
Does that make any sense to you
but
whatsoever?
If you hear what she says, well, to the people listening, it's free. But to those people who make over $400,000, well, it's not free. But nobody ever wants to say. It's always very easy to say tax the rich, and rich is, I think, how you define it, right? I mean, there are people who make $100,000 a year who would say they are rich, and people who make $10 million a year who say they are rich. Rich is very much in the eye of the beholder. So $400,000, it never just stays with those people, Ken. It always trickles down to the rest of us. Everybody is impacted when they start to raise taxes. Everybody.
Yeah, and it doesn't work. And let's just hear the truth. Let's just have somebody tell it the way it is.
What does it cost?
Yeah, I mean, especially when it comes to our money, Jen, this is something that we're supposed to trust, right? And we're supposed to have a strong system when it comes to our money, supposed to be secure. And that's what people are wondering about. What could we do, Ken, to help protect and diversify what we have? If things fall apart, I don't want to lose it all. And,
that's right.
And remember, Jen, we're not giving financial advice. We're giving our opinion here, and we don't have a crystal ball. But doesn't it make sense to you that if things are so risky when it comes to debt and money printing that we may want to do something about it, especially when some of our leaders talk so foolishly? And the next clip, I'd like to hear what people have to say about Joe Biden commenting JB, President JB.
I call him Chairman Joe.
Okay, well, we can do that. About inflation. This was from last year.
We're seeing a stronger labor market where jobs are booming and Americans are working. We're seeing some signs that inflation may be beginning to moderate. That's what happens when you build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out. The wealthy do very well and everyone has a chance. It gives everyone a chance to make progress. Now I want to be clear. With the global challenges we face, from the war in Europe, the disruption of supply chains and pandemic shutdowns in Asia, we could face additional headwinds in the months ahead. Our work is far from over, but two things should be clear. First, The economic plan is working, and second is building an economy that will reward work. Wages are up this month, provide opportunity, help the middle class, and still have work to do, but we're on track.
Makes me want to run down to the bank, Jen, and or call my broker and just say, hey, listen, I'd like to get a little bit of money out of this system. It's not making me feel warm and fuzzy.
Really? You didn't
the
like
leadership is confusing. I'm not really quite sure what's going on, and their only answer is they're doing a fantastic job, and we're just going to print a whole bunch more money, and we're going to keep spending and spending and spending. It's not going to cost us a dime.
It's like a party.
It's not working for me. I need to do something about it. And that's why you and I are here.
Yeah, our dollar bills are seriously like confetti, I think, to the government, right? They just fling it all out the window.
Like one of those guns, you shoot it and it just keeps spitting it out.
We need one of those guns in this studio. All right, let's listen now to Janet Yellen. You said you want to go to the bank and maybe get a little money out.
I would. I mean, it makes me feel that way. Yeah, maybe a little bit,
Tuck
just to kind of, have a
mattress.
little bit of diversification.
Well, guess what? The Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, was talking about the safety of our banks.
Oh, okay.
Is that money going to be there? Take a listen.
I would say that we had a couple of bank failures, banks that had rather unique characteristics of enormous reliance on uninsured deposits and very substantial mark-to-market hits from higher interest rates that lowered the value of their assets. That situation threatened contagion. We intervened forcefully, I believe, both to reassure deposit holders that their assets in banks across America are safe and to improve liquidity to banks. And the banks now have stable deposits. We're not seeing substantial deposit runoff. So there are some pressures on stock prices, but our banking system is well capitalized. It has assets, it has access to liquidity, and regulators stand ready to use the same tools we have in the past if there are further pressures that arise.
Believe in their tools, Jen. I don't believe in the rhetoric. I don't believe in the nonsense. And this is what I really think could happen. And once again, our opinion. What if the banks limited the ability for us to take our money out? Or what if they limited the ability for us to send our money to another broker or get it? You see what happens when we take our money out of the system.
Think about how scary that is, and let's come back and talk about that. Could there be limitation on the banks when you want to access your money? This is a gold standard with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Dr. Gorka here. You're listening to The Gold Standard with your hosts, Ken Russo from veteran-owned Midas Gold Group and Jennifer Horn. Owning private money in the form of physical gold and silver is perhaps more important than ever to your long-term financial security. As U.S. banks fail, the Biden administration sends hundreds of billions abroad while depleting our strategic oil reserves. However, the biggest financial threat may be coming from within: central bank digital currency. The patents have been filed and the big banks have released plans for implementation. Midas Gold Group sees tyrannical implications, the end of cash, the end of financial privacy, big government able to see your every purchase. Could there be ties to social credit? Hear more commentary on the political and economic issues that affect your financial security right here on The Gold Standard. You can create your own gold standard with a call to Midas Gold Group, 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653, MidasGoldGroup.com.
Welcome back to The Gold Standard with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn. Don't forget to check out Midas Gold Group right now, MidasGoldGroup.com. That's MidasGoldGroup.com, or you can call 855-322-GOLD. Find out if gold and precious metals are right for you. Offices in California, offices in Arizona. Give a call, 855-322-GOLD.
The whole universe.
Exactly.
Offices in the whole universe. Anybody who wants to own any gold in the whole universe could give us a call.
You fly that rover up to Mars, you can call Midas Gold Group.
Absolutely. You'd have to be on Mars if you don't understand what's going on, but that's
true.
Okay.
There are a lot of it's a whole different story, though, I think, an alien story.
There
for
are a lot of
different
people
show.
on Mars, but they may even want to protect some of their money, too.
That's
diversify.
Okay, so let's talk about the safety of the bank today, Ken, because right before the break, we were talking about the idea that there may be a time very soon when banks are going to be overrun. Everybody's able to withdraw money, whether it's on an app, whether it's in person at an ATM. The money is going to come out. If people get spooked, could there be a potential of regulations on your money? What is the safety of the banking system right now?
Well, they always say FDIC insured,
Every
FDIC
time.
insured. I mean, but we all know the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation is as federal as Federal Express. It's not a government agency. They're trying to insure $120 trillion worth of deposits or something like that with $120 billion worth of assets. I think it's $18 trillion worth of deposits and $128 trillion worth of assets. But if we really understood what the FDIC meant and what they don't want us to hear, which is a clip that was played last November, and the ability for people to not understand what's going on in the banking sector because of a bank run and how dangerous that is to our system. Let's give that a little listen.
Be accessible when people need to know, but I don't think you have much hope of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank? Like, my insurance company doesn't tell me what they're doing with my assets. They just assume they're going to pay my claim. Right? I think you've got to think of the unintended consequences of taking a public that has more full faith and confidence in the banking system than maybe people in this room do. That we want them to have full faith and confidence in the banking system. They know the FDIC insurance is there. They know it works. They put their money in. They're going to get their money out. So there's a select crowd of people that are in the institutional side. And if they want to understand this, they're going to find a way to understand this. There's a bunch of law firms represented in this room. There's a bunch of people that'll charge them by the hour a lot of money to explain this all to them. And it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And they all have huge staffs. But I would be careful about the unintended consequences of starting to blast too much of this out in the general public.
We see, Jen, what the unintended consequences are when people want their money.
Or the unintended consequences of telling people the truth. Now, I have to tell you, I live and breathe this stuff.
That's a good point, Jen. And that aren't we talking about trust and and freedom and privacy?
In fact, our dollar bill, in God we trust, and
right.
And you better trust in God, because I don't know if that dollar is very trustworthy anymore. But I want to underscore something here, Ken, because I live and breathe this stuff. I live and breathe these hearings. This is what I do as the host of the Morning Answer on AM 870, which is an affiliate. Thank you. Which is an affiliate of this radio show, The Gold Standard. I had never heard this clip until you brought it up as we were prepping for today's show. It is stunning to me that they say that the public shouldn't know that their money may not be there when they need it. This is the perfect argument for people who are thinking about adding gold or precious metals to their investment portfolio. Sure, it adds safety and it adds stability and all of the things that we've talked about. But now we're hearing people on the record say that your money may not be there when you need it. That is frightening.
Yeah, and the inability to hear the truth.
Right.
And we're not saying that.
They want to protect us from the truth.
Well, it's always for our own good. But I would tell you, things are very dangerous. I would tell you that things are very risky, in our opinion, of course. I don't think that the banks are going to go under tomorrow, but anything could happen at any time. And what I would suggest to people is to get out in front of this, consider where you are, consider what's going on, and consider taking some of that paper money that you have or paper assets and put it into something that you could hold, something that you can control in your own possession. Oh, I think I actually have a gold coin in my pocket.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
This man, he jingle-jangles when he walks down the street.
Stuff like this.
There you go.
That you could actually touch, take it out of the system, get it in your own possession. You know that it typically will always have value. And in this particular environment, Jen, I mean, you're a hardworking, professional, career-orientated lady. Don't you feel a little bit unsure about the safety of your money and possibly what you can do to maybe make it a little bit safer?
Absolutely, because here's the thing, especially if you are considering your family's future. Look, if you don't have a lot of money, you can't afford to lose a lot of money. Everything that I work for and put away, I need to use for my retirement, for my family's future, for our legacy. I can't afford to lose the money that I've worked so hard for. And so what do? Do you keep it in the banks and you hope for the best and you hope they're going to tell you the truth? Or do you do something to hedge that bet? And do you do something that is going to be about taking personal responsibility a bit for your own finances?
I think anybody who's realistic at this point has to ask themselves, why wouldn't I hedge my bets?
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't I diversify? And, the whole system, things can just disappear.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it reminds me of that old South Park episode where they were talking about putting money in the bank.
This is
and
Kenny.
then I love this. Now, I'm not saying that your money's going to disappear, and I'm not saying if you put money in the stock market that it's going to be gone, but I think people out there could relate to this particular clip at this particular moment.
Do I really have to do this, Dad?
Dan, now more than ever, you need to understand the importance of saving money.
Grandma said I could use this money to buy whatever I want.
Okay, next, please. Go on, Stanley. How can I help you, young man?
I got a $100 check from my grandma, and my dad said I need to put it in the bank so it can grow over the years.
Well, that's fantastic. A really smart decision, young man. We can put that check in a money market mutual fund. Then we'll reinvest the earnings into foreign currency accounts with compounding interest, and it's gone.
It is gone. That's right. I love that.
What?
Oh,
It's gone. It's all gone.
It's all gone.
it's all gone.
The
Now,
money
we
in
don't
your
hope.
account, it didn't do too well. It's gone.
We laugh about that.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
aren't South Park, The Simpsons, all of these cartoon shows, there's been so much wisdom that has come out of them that's almost like they're able to see into the future. This doesn't sound so far away.
I
Ben.
would say, you know what it points out, Jen? Do we really understand what our money is?
Yeah.
I mean, is it just digits? Is it just a ledger? Is it just there and then it's not? Do we really understand really what it is? And I would tell you that I don't. And
yeah. Well, also, when you take it into the bank, you hand people money or a check or whatever, you think it's going to stay in that bank and that you're going to be able to go access it. Oh, no. As they just taught you on South Park, it's going to go to a million different places and you're going to hope to be able to get at it when you can. So if you are thinking about gold, if you're thinking about precious metals, don't forget to check out Midas Gold Group. Do it this week while you're thinking about it. MidasGoldGroup.com, or you can call 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653. And Ken, I know next week we're going to talk about digital currency, which is also pretty frightening, and the Fed Now program that starts in July. Can you give us a quick tease on that?
Yeah, it's a payment system, kind of like the SWIFT code, and obviously it's a monitored system. So it's definitely turning into a monitored money system, let's just say. And it's where we're headed. So if you don't want to have all your money in that type of a system, then we have to understand where we're at. And let's talk facts, right, Jen? We talk about the riskiness of the banking industry, and we talk about our money not being there.
Mm-hmm.
People found that out real quick with First Republic Bank, Silvergate, Silicon Valley Bank shares, Credit Suisse. They're not an isolated instance. We're not just making this stuff up. This is not just our opinion. Those banks were entities, and over the next day or two, they were insolvent.
Yeah.
So,
and this is not just, there were a lot of people who were making excuses for those bank collapse. I believe they were talking about it was mismanagement.
like an isolated instance that,
right. But that was for the first one. And then there was the second one. And then there was the third one. And then you have to really wonder, is your money going to be there when you need it? And
well, that's right. And
that's
I
at
would
the
just
bottom
say
of
our
all of
money
this.
and our system is rotten.
Yeah.
And
can you trust who's in charge? I mean, my goodness, you got the guy in charge eating ice cream cones, not really worried about how much money he's printing.
Well, and that's a serious cause to say, hey, what's really going on here?
Yeah.
I don't know what my money's going to be worth in the future. I may want to take a few precautions and help protect what I have so that no matter what happens, I'm not financially ruined if and when this ever crumbles or comes apart.
It's always good to have a plan and a backup plan. 855-322-GOLD is the number to call our friends over at Midas Gold Group. 855-322-4653, 855-322-GOLD, or MidasGoldGroup.com. That's MidasGoldGroup.com. Don't forget, next week we will be back with you. We'll be talking about digital currency and the Fed Now program, which starts in July. Ken Russo, always a pleasure.
It's a pleasure, Jen. I wish we had an hour.
I
2
know.
hours.
We're running short. We've got so much to talk about. Thanks for joining us this week. It's The Gold Standard with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.